We're back with another video from React to 15 hybrid animals that actually exist. Now, I ain't gonna lie, just based off of the thumbnail, bro, that lion looks mad scary. I'm gonna keep it a buck, bro. Like, if I seen that shit, bro, I don't even think running would do anything, bro. I feel like that nigga will hawk me down as soon as he lays eyes on me. But let's get into it, bro.
We've all seen lions, tigers, and bears, but most people haven't seen an
learn
animal
something
that
new.
contains DNA of all three. It's actually possible for certain animal species to be interbred and procreate strange-looking hybrid animals. Today, we'll be taking a look at 15 of the most scary hybrid animals.
Is that a... Oh, that's
Number
a polar
15,
bear.
liger.
A liger?
We were all laughing as Napoleon Dynamite was drawing pictures
Wait,
of
they
the
have
mythical
lions
liger.
and tigers, bro? That's a thing, bro? A liger is a thing?
Scientists were laughing at us because the liger is very real. It's one of the most well-known hybrids to exist.
A liger?
Don't expect to see one on the hunt in the savannah. This
What the
artificially
hell?
created beast only exists in the
This is
zoos
why
and
I'm
sanctuaries that have
staying
birthed them.
out of nature.
And as the name would suggest, they're the product of a male lion.
Like,
mating
bro, you
with a
won't
female
catch me in a
tiger.
rainforest.
But the kicker here is that these animals grow to be much larger than either of their parents. And while this may sound cool to us, it's actually quite unfortunate for the ligers. They suffer from a bout of gigantism, which causes them to weigh around 1,200
Bro,
pounds, which is way too much for their body to
how much
even
y'all
attempt
think it
to
costs
support.
to
So the odds of seeing one running around
purchase
even in
one?
an enclosure are slim to none. So while on paper
Them
the
shit's gotta be
idea of a
rare and
liger is
expensive.
awesome, they live somewhat of a sad existence because they're so overweight it's too much for their body, organs, and heart to take. And most of them die at a young age. But the ligers are fertile, and although uncommon, they can mate with other ligers, tigers, and lions. But that offspring seems even scarier than the liger itself. Number 14, jaglion.
A jaglion? A jaguar and a lion exist, bro? Like, bro, what's up with these animals just doing something with lions, bro? Y'all niggas just trying to overpower humans, bro. Come on, this shit is dangerous. I ain't gonna lie, this nigga might need to be extinct by right now,
in their
bro.
own right. And so the thought of combining them with a jaguar
A
is
jaglion? Are we dead ass?
Both of these animals are at the top of the food chain and stalk their prey before going
jaglion?
into the kill. And when you combine these two apex predators, you get the jaglion. A product of an incredibly selective breeding system.
Bro, that
the
thing looks
jaglion
so
is
fire,
incredibly
though.
rare and will always be birthed at an animal sanctuary. But one of the most
Damn,
famous
look at the
jaglions lived in the
spots.
Bear Creek Sanctuary in Ontario, Canada, and will likely live out their days there, toting the line between lion and jaguar. But their birth was actually a happy accident. A black jaguar had mated with a lioness, and thus these twins were born, and their caretakers have said that these two are inseparable.
Bro.
It's highly unlikely that they would be accepted by either species.
Hey,
in
which
the
one y'all
wild,
think
because
look
they
cooler,
can't
the
breed with other
jaglion or the
species of their
liger?
own. They are essentially one-of-a-kind creatures. But one thing you can't
Bro, I'm
deny
taking a
is they're
jaglion, I ain't
incredibly
gonna lie.
gorgeous, taking
Bro,
on the
look at
best
the
physical
black.
traits of each animal.
Like, bro, you're not
But
finna
if
tell me
there's
that
one
thing don't
lesson
look
you can
fire.
learn from nature, it's that the more beautiful the animal, the chances are the deadlier it is. Just make sure you don't turn your back on them, because that's when they strike.
For real.
Number 13.
Even if you don't turn your
bear.
back, I mean, even if you...
When you're camping, the last thing you want to run into is a grizzly bear. If one of these things takes a liking to you, things probably won't pan out so well. So what would happen if one of these giant predators had their genes crossed with their polar cousins? Well, then you've got a growler bear on your hands. The name may be silly, but the growler bear is not to be trifled with.
Wait,
and unlike
I didn't hear what the animal... What is a growler? Like, I'm gonna try to guess a growler bear. So obviously it's a polar bear. Oh, a grizzly and a polar bear.
These are more likely to turn up in the wild than in a zoo or sanctuary. Back in 2006, an odd-looking bear was shot in the Canadian Arctic, and after some DNA testing and plenty of head-scratching, it was confirmed that this was in fact a hybrid animal. So how does something like this even happen? Don't grizzlies and polar bears have their own respective territories?
Yeah, aren't they enemies?
This one is a little sadder, and it's likely that these two bears came across each
that
other
color
due to
is
climate
fire.
change. As we all know,
like
polar
coffee.
bears have been running out of space in the Arctic regions, so they've been moving south into grizzly country, and you can figure out the rest from there. But since that initial sighting, more and more hunters are reporting growler bear sightings, and it's likely that there will be even more in the future.
Damn.
Number 12.
That shit.
Zonkey.
Ugh, what the fuck?
A zonkey is not
Yo,
a
get rid of this
donkey,
nigga, bro.
But the fact that this hybrid animal
This thing is
exists
ugly.
is creepy enough. When you mix a zebra with a
zebra
donkey,
and a
you get
donkey?
the strange cocktail that is the zonky.
That shit is ugly.
And
I'ma
because
keep
both
it a buck.
animals are equine, breeding two successfully is pretty easy
Hell
to do.
nah.
But the chances of a zebra and a donkey falling in love with each other in the wild are pretty low. So you can bet that any zonky in
niggas
existence
was
is a
just
product
doing
of both
shit, bro.
science and selective breeding. And
A
luckily,
zonky?
much like its parents, the zonky is anything but deadly, unless killing somebody with cuteness is a thing. The zonky
that
is
thing
able
is
to
not
retain
cute, bro.
traits from both parents that give it its coat, and so they'll typically have zebra lines on their legs, but they'll still give you that iconic hee-haw if you get a little too close. Perhaps they've retained the best of both worlds.
They could have
then.
kept this
But
one,
the
I
only
ain't gonna
catch
lie.
with the zonky is that these guys are a one-time deal, meaning they can't produce any young, making each iteration one of a kind. And if you ever get down to Tijuana and see a fully striped zonky, chances are it's just a
Zonky.
donkey with those
Zonky.
black and white stripes painted
I
on.
don't know, man.
But if you want to catch a glimpse of this wild hybrid, your best bet is going to be at a special zoo.
That thing is
Number
ugly.
11, humpless camel. If you're
Humpless
lucky
camel?
enough to see a camel in person or even ride one, the first thing you're going to notice is the hump. But what about humpless camels? Also known as camas, humpless camels are the product of a camel breeding with a llama. And while you may not realize it,
Camel and a
llamas and
llama?
camels
So does it
aren't that
spit?
too far from each other in the gene pool, so this hybrid animal isn't as rare or tough to create. This is an interesting animal because while it may look like a small camel, you'll
Ugh.
immediately notice the hump is missing. But they do take on the llama's coat,
thing just
meaning they
look
are
odd.
extra soft. While not as
don't
large
even look like
as
he
a camel,
belong for
an
real.
adult kama can weigh up to 6 times as much as a llama. But because these can only be made via artificial insemination, you'll never see one out in the wild. Plus, think about where each animal lives in relation to the
Ooh,
other.
Is that,
That just
is that
can't
the same
happen.
animal?
The very first
What is
kama
that
on
thing right
record
there?
was bred in 1998 with the goal of producing more wool than your straight-up llama because of its size and more cooperative temperament. So originally, llamas were too small and camels were too tough, and in just 10 years, another 5 kamas were produced. Number 10, beefalo. Humans love beef. We love
Beefalo?
burgers, and steaks maybe a little too much sometimes, and it can feel like there aren't enough cows to satiate our appetites. So
buffalo?
naturally, scientists are always thinking of ways to really beef things up, which is why they created the beefalo. The product of a human-led breeding program, you get a beefalo when you mix a male cow and a female bison.
What
And
the
unlike some of the
fuck?
other hybrids we've seen,
Yo, I'm not really with the like animal killing stuff, but imagine somebody makes a burger out of that. I ain't gonna cap, bro. That shit might be crazy. That might be like one of the craziest burgers ever, bro. A cow and a buffalo, dude.
history of the beefalo
I wonder how long
goes
that
back
shit
a few
take to
hundred
cook.
years. The first recorded beefalo sighting was in 1749 when they were accidentally bred in the American South. But about 100 years later, settlers began creating beefalo in the hopes that they would provide both more milk than cows and survive the harsh winters. Think of them as super cows. The beefalo
Super
was tough to
cows.
manage, but they were a success nonetheless because the majority of them were able to produce offspring. But cut to a few centuries later, the meat industry is booming and manufacturers are employing scientists to help them produce more and better meat. So now, the beefalo comes in again, offering not just more meat, but leaner and with less fat and cholesterol than your average
Damn.
cattle. It's an odd animal with an odd history, and perhaps even an odder future.
Damn, so
Number
they still.
9,
This
Henny.
video's old, but are they
If
still
you
alive?
thought the zonky was one freaky hybrid animal, then just wait until you hear about this one.
Niggas
The
said
Henny
freaky.
is a product of a match made anywhere but heaven. A female donkey mating with a male horse. And so the Henny is essentially the opposite of a mule and looks much smaller than its well-known cousin. But instead of being a smaller, more demure hybrid animal, this one is strong, really strong. Henny have some tough legs, so despite their size, they can give you just a little more
Yo, I
bang
don't
for your
like the
buck
name
than
of
the
the
average
animal.
pack animal.
A henny?
It's quite an interesting characteristic. And unlike the mule, the Henny is a little easier on the eyes, with a more and overall better-looking mane. So, the Henny has beauty and brawn. But how about brains? Well, maybe not so much.
Damn.
It may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but they certainly know how to get the job done. The biggest question
Call that
here
nigga
is,
stupid.
why do you get a mule when you cross a male donkey with a female horse, but a Henny when you have the inverse pair? It all comes down to the dominant traits of the mother. So, because the Henny's mother is much smaller than the horse that sired it, you get this small in stature hybrid animal.
Dang.
Number 8, the Zoe. Sure, a lot of hybrid animals are the products of lab creations and the want for newer zoo attractions, but then there are those that are made out of necessity, and that's exactly what the zoo is. It's what you get when you mix a yak with a domestic cow, and it's easily one of the most useful hybrids around. The zoo has become all the rage amongst farmers in the hills of Mongolia and Tibet, as they make not only excellent beasts of burden, but they've also become a bit of a delicacy, offering the best of both worlds when it comes to the meat. But what really makes the zoo so special is its sheer size, because neither a cattle nor a yak can achieve that size naturally. And fun little fact about the zoo is that females are all fertile and capable of further producing offspring. But when it comes to the males, they're a one-time deal. The male zoo is totally infertile, so you better enjoy those genes while you can.
It look like
the zoo is a great example of what happy accidents can yield, as well as the brains and creativity of everyday folk, as opposed to men and women in lab coats cooking up Frankenstein monsters for research purposes. Number 7. Spider goats. Okay, you've heard of Spider-Man, but what about
that's the best Spider-Man of all time. Amazing Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield is the greatest Spider-Man ever, bro.
Goats. Spider goats are very real and a new addition into the world of living oddities created by science. But instead of swinging from building to building and saving the city once a week, all these goats do is produce milk that contains spider silk. But because these goats have had their DNA spliced with the golden orb spider, the silk from the milk can be extracted and used to make all kinds of amazingly strong materials like parachutes, fishing lines, and even body armor. These spider goats are totally amazing and seriously unusual, but don't expect to find silk milk on the shelves of your local grocery store anytime soon, because they're strictly bred and farmed for science. And if you don't believe me, just reach out to the University of Utah and they'd be happy to show off these amazing spider goats on one of their many guided tours. And always just remember that with great power comes great responsibility. Even for goats. Number 6. Wolfen.
Whoa, all right, that next thing, a black dolphin, bro. That thing has mad aura, bro. That thing looks fire.
Wacky hybrids is probably one of the rarest in the world, which is saying a lot. And probably one of the coolest, too. The wolfen is what you get when you cross a female bottlenose dolphin and a male false killer whale, which is actually a member of the dolphin family and not an actual killer whale. Just imagine what that would look like. But the wolfen is a super cool hybrid that does in fact exist in the wild, and more people have been seeing them, albeit still far and few between. But of course, this is the type of animal that you'd mostly find in captivity, with the first being produced in Tokyo SeaWorld in 1981, who unfortunately died after just 200 days. The first wolfen in the United States was birthed at the Sea Life Park in Hawaii in 1985, named Kekamalu, which means from the peaceful ocean, and she was a hit from the moment she was born. And it's not hard to see why, with her darker skin, nice row of 66 razor-sharp pearly whites that she shows off with every wide smile.
Water animal.
She was even able to produce offspring, which sadly passed away after just a few days. But her second calf lives a far more successful life, living to be about 9 years old. It's safe to say that the wolfen still needs some genetic fine-tuning to become a mainstay within the animal kingdom.
God,
Number 5,
mainstream.
Geep. Not to be confused with the four-wheeled Grand Cherokee, the geep is a funny little hybrid animal made when a sheep and a goat successfully procreate.
What the hell?
But that pairing doesn't always work out, and many
why it look like a koala in the face? Like, it just... What, bro, this thing look a little off. I don't know, bro.
Never carry to term and come out as stillborn. So like some previous list entries, the geep is a rare find. So if you do manage to catch a glimpse of one, consider yourself to be incredibly lucky, because these little guys are cute as hell. The very first case on record of one of these little hybrid babies being born dates back to the year 2000, when a male sheep impregnated a female goat at the Botswana Ministry of Agriculture. The baby geep was born with a coarser outer coat and beautiful woolly inner coat.
That black and white
is tough, of a sheep and the body of a goat. It sounds a bit like a mythological creature, but much to the chagrin of the caretakers, it was totally real. Sadly though, like many hybrid animals, the geep is infertile, so the idea of an entire flock of geep running around in the meadow is just a pipe dream. But while he couldn't create any offspring, the geep in Botswana would go for anything that moved, chasing after every female sheep that he came across within the facility. You go, geep. Number 4. Green sea slug. Claiming the
That's
number
an
4
animal?
spot on this list of hybrid animals is probably the most unusual yet.
Is that?
It's none other
like
than the green sea slug.
grass.
This slug is a strange little beast, incorporating the genetic material from the algae that it eats into its own DNA. So talk about you are what you eat. It's one of the few animals on Earth with this characteristic and floats about in the oceans looking like a big green plant. But because the slug feeds on plants, it uses photosynthesis to create its own nutrients as well, which is what gives it its bright green color. Scientists have even called it the emerald green Elysia. So instead of being the product of two different animals, the green sea slug is made up of everything, everywhere, all at once. It's pretty crazy, and it's still baffling scientists around the world. Research is still underway as to how the green sea slug is able to do what it does. And as of yet, this amazing slug is the only successful instance of gene transfer from one type of complex organism into another.
It
You'll
look like it
typically
should
find
glow
these
in the
guys
dark.
hanging out in the shallows of tidal or salt marshes and creeks. So the next time you're hanging around in those areas and see some bright green leaves floating about in the water, there's a chance that it's actually a green sea slug hiding in plain sight.
Dang.
Number 3. Tigon.
A
Very
tiger.
similar to the liger, the tigon has the
tigon.
same parents,
A tiger-
only this time the roles are reversed. The tigon is the epic offspring of a male tiger and a female lion or lioness. But it
So
is
it's
amazing
opposite.
how, despite having such similar
So
parentage,
who do y'all think will win in a fight? A lion or a tigon? That would be crazy, bro.
tigon looks so different from its gender-swapped counterparts. These hybrid animals are absolutely gorgeous with their light
lion
tan
or
stripes
a
and a nice
tigon?
white underbelly, all topped off with a big
ain't
mane
gonna lie, I
and
got the
spotted
lion.
head. And as you could probably guess by now, there's no way that a tiger and lion are mating in the wild. Tigers are incredibly solitary, with their domains spanning for miles and miles, and lions mainly sticking to their pride. On the off chance that these two animals came across each other in the wild, the odds are it wouldn't end well. So the tigon is only ever going to be found in captivity. And there's no way these hybrids could ever be released into the wild, because they would sadly never be accepted by either species. But
Damn.
such is the life of a hybrid animal, I suppose.
Them niggas are not claiming him in their community, bro. He's basically just like y'all, but just a little different, bro.
Tigon's history dates all the way back to 1943,
They don't
when
rock
one
with
was
bro.
successfully birthed at the Munich Hellebrunn Zoo and even raised to adulthood. And while there have been just a handful of exceptions, the majority of the tigons you'll come across at your local zoo are sterile, meaning each one is both the first and last of their family.
Dang.
Number 2.
That's unique.
A lepin.
What the?
Ligers and tigons and growler bears, oh my. And if you thought those were freaky hybrids, then just wait until you see this one. When a male
is-
leopard successfully mates with a female lion, you get the lepin.
Lepin?
These hybrids are animals that are rare,
that
with
thing
only a
looks
handful
fire.
ever to exist, all of whom were bred in captivity. The lepin has both a unique and beautiful appearance and looks like something.
Bro, why does nobody do nothing with a cheetah? Like, imagine a lion and a cheetah, bro. Called it a leader. That would be tough. Imagine a super fast lion, bro. I ain't gonna lie. All the animals in the animal universe would be fried.
Hercules came across during his 12 labors.
They would not stand a chance.
The lepin has the head of a lion, a beautiful mane, deadly jaws and all, but with the spotted body of the leopard. If this thing ever got
Damn,
out into
look
the
at the
wild, there's no doubt that
fur.
it would be the apex predator and absolutely dominate the jungles and savannas of the world as it blends into its surroundings, stalking its
imagine
prey.
a
But
bear
luckily for us, that's never going to happen.
and a cheetah.
The world's very first lepin was bred in India at the turn of the 20th century, and now more than 100 years later, it's believed that there are only about 100 in existence today. The
Dang.
minute one of these lepins are born, they enter the endangered species list. It's one strange yet beautiful existence. Number 1. Killer bees.
Killer
We'll
bees?
bet you didn't know that killer bees are actually
What's that, a hornet
hybrid
and a bee?
animals. That's right, these horrifying little fuzzy buzzing creatures are actually the product of human interference. Created back in the 1950s, scientists were putting their heads together with the goal of increasing the world's honey production, so they bred a few different species of bee. They took the typical honeybee and mixed them up with the African bee in a lab in Brazil. The result was a big bee with a nasty attitude that was supposed to live out
Bro,
its days in a
how are
controlled
they able to just breed stuff, bro? Like, I feel like that should be illegal. Like, they just take animals whenever they want and just make whatever.
environment. Too bad for the scientists, though, and the rest of the world, that these new hybrid bees broke loose. And unlike so many hybrid animals, the killer bee is very, very capable of producing not just honey, but offspring. Their defining characteristic is their strong will to defend the colony at all costs. And unless you're deathly allergic, the sting of one killer bee won't be too much. But the thing is, you never just see one killer bee on its own. These deadly little insects love to hang out in swarms, and if you ever come across one, there's no way you can outrun them on just 2 legs. This is one hybrid animal that you want to steer clear of at all costs.
For real.
Watch our animals playlist for more.
Shout out to this channel. Let me know what y'all think the craziest animal on here was, bro. I feel like it was low-key that ligon or that growler. I think it's called a growler bear, bro. Them sound crazy. I'm gonna keep it a buck, but let me know what y'all want to see next, bro. I'm out of here.